This is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back. I hope you're well. It's another morning break live on Monday, 16th of December. I'm your host, Khanh-Duc.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and you are listening live. Tune in live at ttradio.org, or to join in the conversation, download the Podbean app and search Teachers Talk Radio. Follow the hashtag TTRadio. Tune in, talk it out with Teachers Talk Radio.
And here we are, another Monday, if you're listening live, of course. I mean, you might be listening back to our podcast, and it might be a Thursday. But hang on, did you just hear what I did there? I mentioned our podcast, and I'm taking the opportunity to remind you all to share our shows. All our shows can be listened to as podcasts, and you can find them all on our website at www.ttradio.org, and of course, wherever you find other podcasts on all streaming platforms. I'd also like to take a moment to acknowledge you, our listeners. As we go from strength to strength, you have been with us, and your support is truly appreciated. My guest today is a professor of psychology based in Taipei, Yang-Ming Huang, and together we'll be exploring motivation. In particular, how that inner drive, that goal-directed behavior seems to have drifted or shifted when young people transition from secondary school on to higher education. And I see, Yang-Ming, you are here now in the studio. It is good to have you with us. Say hello.
Hi, this is Yang-Ming speaking.
Hi. I'm glad you could make it. Now, have you had a good day, Yang-Ming?
Yes, I had a good day. Yeah.
Oh, that's really good. Now, let me ask you, what motivates you to get out of the house each day, go to campus, and do the best you can?
Well, I have to make a living, I suppose.
Yeah, fair enough. So that's kind of like the extrinsic motivation. I mean, I was just lying on the sofa 10 minutes before this show, thinking to myself, now what motivates me, to get off the sofa and head to my computer? Not always a very easy question to ask, isn't it? I mean, to answer, it's a very easy question to ask, but not very easy to answer. And here we are today. Okay, you have to make a living, but how about here? This show, apart from the fact that I asked really nicely, is there particular motivation for you to do things, outside of what's necessary?
Yeah, if that's something of interest to me. Like I also have my own podcast, and I like to share my ideas and thinkings with other people. So this podcast with you is a great opportunity for me to do this.
So see, we've talked. See, we segued very nicely into our topic already. So we had the extrinsic motivation, the reason why you and I and many other teachers get up in the morning and make our way to work and do the best we can. And then we've got the intrinsic motivation, right, that comes from the inside, the reason why we do things, in relation, really, not necessarily in relation, but kind of like what no, to rephrase, sorry, brain glitch there. It reminds me of what I learned in my own teacher education about Maslow's hierarchy of
Mm,
needs.
Yeah.
Right? That all of us are, I mean, I don't know. I don't know whether it's right as to say all of us. I was thinking about that earlier this morning, but essentially the hierarchy of needs is that all humans were inherently motivated to better ourselves and move towards expressing our full potential. I mean, I do question whether it is really, all humans. Maybe we start out like that, but somewhere along the line, we lose our way, and that's what we're talking about today.
Yes,
Um,
exactly. Yeah.
yeah. So we're talking about young people, right? So those who are moving from secondary school to university. And let's begin with some observations first. Anecdotally, you've mentioned, and I've concurred, that our students don't, and I'm putting quotation marks here, seem motivated. Yang Ming, what do you see in your work that makes you come to that conclusion?
Well, I would say that you assume that students who come to psychology department, they should be very interested into studying psychology, but in reality, you so some of them sorry, some of them were not that interested in class, and they don't show, or they come and they look very sleepy and they eventually fell asleep.
Mm-hmm.
So I was puzzled. I was like, so you think you want to study psychology, and then what's wrong? Why is this happening? And then
Mm-hmm.
you started to want to question yourself. Is it that because we're not teaching the psychology that you're expecting, or is it just something else? At
Mm-hmm.
first, I thought it may be certain subjects or stuff that they are not that into, but then I realized that's not the complete story. There's something more than that.
Mm. I'm going to pick up on that where you've just said that's not the complete story. I remember as I was, thinking about our conversation that we're going to have today, um, and I noted down that this is something I wanted to ask you, right? What do you see that makes you say that? And in one of my teacher training courses, something I attended, we learned about observation, and I cannot for the life of me remember what it was exactly, but I remember it was something about what you see, what you think, and I
Hmm.
think it's what you know. So it's kind of like if I see somebody in my classroom and they're, let's say, instead of giving me their attention, I see that they're always on their digital device, on their iPad. That's what
Yeah.
I see. And then I interpret that they're bored with me,
Hmm.
as I tend to interpret, right? We jump to these conclusions. And
Yeah.
I was taught in my teacher training to be very careful about that, because what we see and then therefore jump to conclusions, therefore what we believe may not actually be what is the case. So we see them, and you've just said that there must be a different story to it. We see them bored, we see them sleepy. I have students in my own classes, first year students. They just started in October, so what are we now? 8 weeks, 9 weeks in, maybe, yeah, kind of 9, 10 weeks into the term,
Yeah.
and they're distracted. I see them distracted. I see them come to class without their materials or come to class unprepared. So, as a
Mm.
teacher, I then think, oh, well, if you were motivated, you would display other kinds of behavior. You're saying that there's something else at play here.
Yeah. Well, what I did ask some of my students that were closer to me. I was like, so why aren't you guys like showing lots of motivation? Then a student got back to me and said, oh, all the teachers expect that, but we can't like give you all our motivation, all our energy in every one of the classes. So they sort of prioritize which is more important to them and what is less important to them. I mean, classes is just one of the things that they set priorities. there are other things that are more important to them, like their life or whatever games they're playing and other stuff like that.
I mean, all our lives are important to us. It does make you kind of question, you know, how they choose these priorities. Do you have any ideas?
I don't know. I wish they put the stuff that matters most on the top of the list. And I wouldn't blame them if they think my class isn't on the top of their list. They better have something that they really care about. But what I do find is I think some of them are very, I mean, they're a bit of lost. They're not sure what they like, but they are very sure about what they don't like. So they have a checklist that, oh, I don't like this, I don't like that, and I don't want to try that. But when you ask them, oh, do you have something that you want to try or you want to pursue? Then they're like, yeah, there are things. But if you want to go ask them to go into details, then it seems like they don't have a clear answer yet. That's what I see for some of the students.
Could it be that our expectations might have changed? No, they've not changed. I think our expectations of students, I've been in higher education now for, close to 20 years.
Hmm.
I don't think my expectation per se of students has changed, but do you think the expectations of students towards higher education and higher education teaching, do you think that has shifted?
I would say yes. I think in the past, higher education was more like a place where you get yourself educated, and so you're better prepared for your life after school. But nowadays, it's more like they're trying to more practically getting the skills they think they'll need for whatever they might need when they're working. And so it's more about getting things they think they need rather than actually getting themselves prepared and already. I mean, because when it's slightly different when you're like getting yourself educated, you don't really have a clear expectation as to what you need to get and what's definitely a thing that I want. It's more like, okay, so I'm here to get myself ready and I'm not sure what are important to me, so I'll just pick up whatever that's along the way. As long as there's someone instructing us, so telling me, okay, so this is important and that is also important if you want to do such and such. But now it's more okay. If they want to become a counseling psychologist, then they would assume that, oh, I need to take all the courses that are related to counseling, and that's what I need. But to be able to fully comprehend whatever counseling courses that want to teach you, you also need to have some basic knowledge about how her mind works and how to interact with people. But they are the things that you don't really get just from the counseling classes. It's from maybe from somewhere else. But now they're being very focused and they want to, okay, so I want this. If it's not about counseling, then I'm not taking that. But you never know I mean, there are some hidden knowledge in everything that you do or in all the courses that you take. There are things that you didn't expect at first, but then eventually it turns out to be something important to you. That's like what I have observed, and I think that's probably the case, but it may not necessarily be right.
Mm. I think that's really interesting, and I'd like to dwell on that a little bit more, because I have seen similar discourse coming out of young people that I work with. But before we look into that, then the way you've described it gets me back to thinking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is
Yeah.
that we're inherently motivated to better ourselves,
Mm.
right? And we want to move towards expressing our full potential, but the kind of behavior that we see from our young people nowadays who are on, I'm just going to call them professional related degrees like teaching, psychology, maybe medicine, law, finance,
Yeah.
banking. It seems that they've taken a much more pragmatic approach. They see it. Do you think they see it as a service, that it's, I'm going there and I'm essentially buying something, I'm buying the skills, you give me the skills, and then I go off and do whatever I have to do? Do you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
absolutely agree. Yes, I think they're here to buy something. They're buying this knowledge and that knowledge. And I think for students that are that thinking that they're buying knowledge, I think they're still the better ones. There are worse ones that they want to get whatever knowledge, but they don't even want to pay. They think I'm here in college, then that's supposed to come to me. Even if I don't pay any effort, I should get it.
Mm.
And then that'll get me ready for whatever afterwards.
Kind of
So,
like the phenomenon. I remember, sorry to interrupt, I remember I had a
yeah,
poster, I had a little A4 poster on my door
yeah.
a couple of years ago. We moved into new offices, so we shouldn't really be, putting posters all over the place now. But I had a poster. I usually put it up at exam period, and on the poster, it's today, by today's standards, they call it a meme. And what the words on the poster was, if you didn't get the grade you wanted, it's because I didn't get the work I wanted.
Uh-huh. Right.
So, but the discourse and the thinking now is really different, because we're still assessing the same way. A lot of the time
Yeah.
it's traditional assessment, or even if it's problem-based and task-based learning, we've got rubrics, we've got certain expectations from
Mm-hmm.
our students. We have certain expectations of what they need to return to us. And then we give them a grade based on those rubrics and assessment criteria. But students don't seem, well, my experience is I do have a lot of students who only care for that numerical grade. So they're not too
Yeah.
interested in the feedback to help them improve. And if they don't
Mm-hmm.
get the grade that they were expecting,
Yeah.
they don't see it as the fault lying in them, but more the fault lying in me.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what we saw here too. And I remember seeing on the news that they're saying some parents, not just the student, they're complaining to the professors. They're like, I pay for the tuition fee. How come you're not giving my children good grades?
Mm, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like they are paying something. They think they pay for the education and they should get the grades, even
Yeah.
though they're not really putting in the effort. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, so something must have gone wrong somewhere along the line. Something must have gone wrong between, that stage in school, um,
Hmm.
and then, that transition. And we're going to explore that a little deeper. You mentioned the news, and we are now going to listen to the education news for this week.
This show is brought to you in partnership with John Catt Educational, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Don't miss out. Level up your professional development today and visit johncattbookshop.com to explore the full range of titles. Use the code JCTTR2425 for 20% off your order. Happy reading.
Parent Kind are a national charity representing parent views and voice and championing parental participation in education and school life. By fostering strong school-parent partnerships, we can boost student attendance, improve behaviour and enhance academic performance. When parents actively participate, students thrive. Join the movement that's reshaping education for the better. Visit parentkind.org to learn more about reaping the rewards of working in partnership with parents.
Are your teachers juggling multiple technology platforms and struggling to keep everything organised? Then Toddle might be the answer. Built by a team of ex-educators, Toddle offers an all-in-one solution for teachers that streamlines everything. from curriculum planning and assessments to communication and report cards. And the best part? Toddle comes inbuilt with an AI assistant that helps teachers save time and improve their practices. 85% of schools replaced 3 or more platforms when they brought in Toddle. Teachers using Toddle say that the platform helps them save up to 10 hours a week. That means more time for what really matters, supporting students and driving academic success. See how Toddle can support your school. Visit toddleapp.com.
Hey education changemakers, ready for something special? It's Bet Show's 40th anniversary and we're throwing a free celebration just for you. Join us at London Excel from January 22nd to 24th to connect, learn and be inspired. Picture this, 300 plus speakers who truly get it, 600 cutting-edge edtech companies and all the fresh ideas you need to make 2025 your best year yet. So why wait? Head to uk.betshow.com, grab your free ticket and come celebrate with your peers. Because this is for you. See you at Bet.
This is Teachers Talk Radio, and this is Teachers Talk Radio News.
FE Week reports that MPs have given Sir Ian Buckham the nod to continue as the chief regulator for Ofqual. Parliament's Education Committee today agreed that Sir Ian, the government's preferred candidate, was appointable to the post. The committee said it hopes he fulfills his commitment to serve a full term in office and restore much needed stability to Ofqual. Sir Ian has been serving as interim chief regulator, but the approval means he could do the role permanently. Sir Ian told the committee that his roles in schools had provided him with a good understanding of the educational landscape and a deep appreciation of the value of qualifications. The previous experience includes leading a multi-academy trust and acting as chair of Oak National Academy. The BBC reports that striking teachers have held a rally outside the Leeds constituency office of Chancellor Rachel Reeves to demonstrate about pay. The group were joined by NEU General Secretary Daniel Kebede, following a government announcement in July that teachers would receive a 5.5% pay rise this year. The union has objected, as sixth form colleges without academy status have not been guaranteed funding to implement the award. The picket line in Bramley was held during the 4th one-day strike by staff at 32 colleges in England. Mr. Kebede said around 2,000 of the union's members were taking part in the latest walkouts. A Department for Education spokesperson said the government recognised the vital role played by sixth form colleges, but that they were responsible for setting appropriate pay for their workforce and managing their own industrial relations. The spokesperson also added that the autumn budget had provided an additional £300 million of revenue funding for further education, and it would set out in due course how it would be distributed. The Scotsman covers the story of the possible unravelling of a deal to replace 621 axed teachers, as several major local authorities declined to offer assurances over teacher numbers next year. In a joint statement, it was revealed that local government and the Scottish Government were committed to working together to restore teacher numbers to 2023 levels, and Education Secretary Jenny Gilruth said she would release £14.5 million to councils this year and increase it to £186.5 million next year to help deliver the pledge. However, some local authorities have failed to commit to the pledge to return to 2023 levels. Glasgow City Council cut 120 full-time equivalent teachers last year, but a spokesperson would only say, "We acknowledge that Glasgow's portion of last year's funding from the government has now been released. We continue to engage regarding next year's census figures." A spokesperson for Aberdeenshire Council also said, "Recruitment remains a significant challenge." In South Lanarkshire, the Director of Finance and Corporate Resources said, "The reduction in numbers is a result of the return to core numbers following short-term increases as part of the response to the pandemic." The Scottish National Party pledged in 2021 that it would recruit an additional 3,500 teachers. But since then, the number of full-time equivalent staff has fallen by 873.
Full details of the numbers and further comment can be found in the Scotsman online. Finally, the Times of India reports that amid tightening visa policies in traditional destinations like the US, UK, Canada, and Australia, Indian students are turning to European countries like Germany, France, and Ireland for higher education. Sources report a 40% decline in interest in the conventional destinations, citing easier visa processes, more affordable education, and lower living costs as key reasons for the shift. Germany has become a top choice due to a streamlined visa process and 18-month post-graduation job-seeking visas. Most students are going for courses like engineering, computer science, and management, whilst in France, popular courses include arts, history, and fashion, with a 2-year post-study work visa extended to 5 years for master's degree holders. In Ireland, graduates can also stay for 2 years post-study. Further details on this story can be found in the Times of India online. This has been your Teachers Talk Radio News with Joe Fox.
So, welcome back, everybody. You are listening live to the Monday morning break today on Monday, 16th of December. Not long more till the end of year. For those of you who are finishing school or university in the next week or so, hang in there. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. But to keep you going, we've got a couple of Teachers Talk radio shows this week still. And, for today, that's You've Got Me, and I'm joined by Yang Ming Huang, based in Taipei, Taiwan, and we're talking about motivation, how the motivation or how we've been seeing that young people who take on university study don't seem to be as motivated as those in generations before. So, Yang Ming, just before we went on to listen to the education news, we were saying that something must have happened in the interim period, and I want to explore that. So I know in primary school, like in Germany, 4 years of primary school, I see it with my own son, there's still that enthusiasm, that happiness, that going to school, and you will have the odd day where the child will say, no, don't want to go. We have that as we get towards the holidays. Secondary school, lower secondaries, yeah, still okay. My daughter's in the middle years. She's in year 9, and she said to me, Mommy, school is school. I've discovered it's something I've got to do. So she's a bit about it. Then they go into upper secondary school, and wherever they are in the world, they'll be taking qualifying exams that will get them into university, and then they go into university. Yang Ming, is university the traditional choice for young people in Taiwan?
I would say yes, and there's lots and lots of universities in Taiwan, so it's a bit different than many parts of the world. And
Is it the
because
only choice? Is
sorry,
university sorry to interrupt, I was so rude there.
yeah.
Is university the only choice? As in they finish high school and it is expected of them, and that's the only thing they can do. There's no other further education or training.
There used to be, but nowadays they transform the vocational schools into technology university. Because I know in Germany you have different paths. Like one is you go to university, and the other is you go on to some vocational school when you get
Yep.
trained for skills and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, I
Definitely.
think that
We've got
right.
lots of routes. I think that is one German export. I have a colleague who comes from Egypt, not a colleague, but somebody I know who comes from Egypt, and she
Yeah.
was saying that they've tried to adopt that into their system. They say that's of the many things that currently isn't working so well in Germany. That's the one
Mm,
thing that seems to be our Germany's current pride, is that post 16.
yeah.
Young people have different options, so they don't have to stay in school till 18 and do high school leaving exams. They don't have to do A levels. If they don't wish to, they finish at 16 with comprehensive exams. And then they can go into trade school, vocational school, do an
Right.
apprenticeship. If you stay
Uh-huh.
until you're 18, you can also go into apprenticeship. So different apprenticeships will require, some, let's say if you're going into more carpentry, plumbing,
Right.
mechanics, right? You can, as
Yeah.
far as I know, if I'm not wrong, you can go into that apprenticeship vocational school post 16. If you want to join the police force, be a kindergarten teacher, I think, or work as an admin clerk, admin staff with the local public services, like the town hall, or be a legal clerk, for example, then you have to take A levels, but you don't go to university for that. You go to, again, to a special vocational school for that. And then we have this new thing that seems to be very popular. It's what we call dual universities. So
Uh-huh.
so it's how would I say, it's an enterprise or an industry where they say, I'm going to use my university as an example. We need IT staff, right? So we need IT professionals. And what happens, it's like an apprenticeship. So they work on site in the enterprise,
Uh-huh.
in the industry, and they go to university for classes, maybe twice a week or every evening, and that's where they get all the theoretical knowledge, and they finish, so it's usually 3 years, and they finish with a bachelor's degree in something or other. So we have, mm, and while you're in industry, you get paid. So you have that with the police force, you have that with the army and the air force, you have it with IT jobs, and you have it also with a lot of administrative posts in
Uh-huh.
local governments. So we have
Right.
that, so our
Yeah.
young people don't see university as the only option. You're telling me that this is different in Taiwan.
Yeah, I would say that's different because we have a lot of universities. And as for the vocational schools, I think it's mostly at the upper secondary school level. And above that, there's not many like places that you go for like you receive additional training. It's more like you enter the job market and then you learn along the way. But for most students, even if they don't really want to go to universities, they would have less pressure from their parents. They're like, oh, everyone goes to college, and so you should go to college. Just pick whatever you like, or if you don't know, just go and just get yourself graduated, and then I'll leave you alone. It's more like that. So we do have like not that many students in the psychology department are in this situation, but I know in some other departments, they came in not really motivated and they don't really want to come into college, but they are forced to do so by their parents, and that could be uh that could be not a very good situation for the teachers in those departments.
Yeah, I was going to say, when you describe it like that, I was going to say, well, that kind of sounds like extrinsic motivation, except that the word motivation is kind of misleading because we see motivation as something positive.
Mm,
I know from English language teaching that people learn English, either because of intrinsic motivation, they do it for themselves to maybe become better at communicating with international people in their company. So that's their intrinsic motivation, that push from themselves to become better communicators. And then there's also the extrinsic motivation where it's from the company. The company says, hey, you've got to do this. I know this, I've had this experience in the past in the early 2000s when where I was living in Germany, we had a lot of people who had moved to where I was living or to my area. They had come from East Germany And with the fall of the wall, people were able to move from the east to the west for work. And a lot of these people who had come from East Germany did not have English. Well, they never
Right.
had English in school, right? And I was teaching at a company. I was actually teaching at UPS, and I was talking to a lot of them, and a lot of them were actually older. They were, I don't know to what extent this would be true, but they were past the stage of ideal language learning, so to speak.
Right.
In some quarters, one would say, you learn best at a particular age. So they were older, put it this way. They were older. They were 35, 40 years old. And they were actually told by the company, you've got to complete a certain number of hours of English language training or you would lose your job. So that's what, in the theory, we would describe as extrinsic motivation. Though I
Right.
think to actually call it motivation is misleading, because it's not. There were people who were sitting there who were unhappy, which kind of is not unlike some of the students that you've got, that I've got, who are sitting in university because their parents said so, right? Their
Yeah.
parents say you have to go and do that. Just a quick question, something that's got me reflecting a little. Do
Uh,
students pay very high fees at universities in Taiwan?
I would say it's cheaper than the States and than in the UK, but well, would you call it expensive? What we've heard so much that it's free to study in Germany. I don't know if that's correct. Um, so if we take an average salary of a middle-aged person, like I think the tuition fee for each semester, we have 2 semesters. It's about a month's salary for the average population. I
Okay.
don't know if that's a good estimate. Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, I would say, I don't know if it would be fair to say it's affordable. I mean, in Germany, it's not entirely free. It is free in the sense that, I mean, if we compare it with the UK, where on average students would pay £9,000 for
Yeah.
one academic year,
Uh-huh.
and that would be tuition. See, in Germany, they don't pay tuition fees, but they pay a contribution, which goes to, it's various different contributions, which covers to some extent also their health insurance, their rail ticket, other social
Oh.
benefits. It's more like a social
Yeah.
contribution. It's more like a social
Mhm.
contribution because it goes into a pot, then a particular pot, and you get subsidized meals on
Right.
campus as well. So to put it into monetary terms, it's a fraction of what I think people anywhere else in the world pay. So
Yeah.
in my state, in North Rhine-Westphalia, where I am, students pay, let me think, they pay about 350, 380 euros, which would be about 400 pounds. I don't know if it's 400 pounds or 300 pounds. I don't know which way it goes, but that would be per semester. So it'll be less than 1,000 euros a year to study.
Right. Then that's very, very cheap. And I mean, it covers their living expenses, I suppose, apart from the rent, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, if you eat on campus, I mean, you can eat on campus, but it won't make you full.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of my students, they do have a part-time job,
Oh,
but their part-time job is to cover their expenses. For example, their rent, if they don't live on campus.
right.
So their
Uh-huh.
rent, their mobile phone, and whatever other luxuries, right? But you see, because that's interesting for me. They're motivated, right? They have this extrinsic motivation to take on a part-time job to finance their
Yeah.
lifestyle,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't seem to have an intrinsic motivation to be the best that they can be in their studies.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
that
and
just for
we
me is baffling. I think my students have also forgotten how privileged they are, actually. Um,
yeah. Yeah, so yeah, I have the same feeling because some of our students, they're like, they may be taking lots of time to work, and then they ended up having no time to do their projects and to study. I was like, oh, so what's the purpose of you coming to college? And they're like, to study. But then I question them. Then why did you spend so much time like taking a part-time job? And they're like, oh, because I want to buy this, I want to buy that. Well, I
Mm.
know for a very small number of students, they do have to work because their family couldn't support them and they had to. But for a lot of them, it's more about having the money to buy stuff they want, which not necessarily their parents would sponsor them to get. So they will work to get what they want, which
Mm.
is not a bad thing. But then you don't need to come to college and to work part time. You just get a full time job.
Yeah, I mean, I do wonder from what you've said, and also from my own experience. And here's an interesting thing. I was talking to my daughter, my 14-year-old, about this. I
Yeah.
was, talking to her. I was sharing with her that we were going to be talking about motivation, and I shared with her our initial conversation. And she said to me, I mean, she used to want to go to university. She had a particular interest. Teens being teens, these things also shift and drift.
Yeah.
She, however, said to me that, after, and these are her words, she said, mommy, after 13 years in school, and then to go to university and to find out that it's even more school, she said that would kill anybody. But here's the thing. So that was an eye opener for me. Yeah, the light bulb went bling, and I thought to myself, could this lack of motivation be due to the way we teach in higher education and the way that they are now learning?
I I I
Because
couldn't
maybe
agree. I
maybe
don't know.
oh, you don't agree, or you don't know, because I think maybe in schools they're learning differently now, and teaching is
Right.
different, and maybe in higher education we've not moved with the times. We've not moved. We're not fit for this new generation of
Mm.
kids.
Well, yeah, I do have this observation that now the kids, they are more, they know, they have better like knowing about what they want, whether it's about what they want to study or what they want to become afterwards. I think they do have this more clear imagination of what they want. But I don't know. But what's confusing to me is if you have this clear thing that you want, then why don't you pursue it harder? Since when I think when I was studying, we're a bit like, oh, I don't really know what I want, so I just try my best and then see what comes to me. But they're like, oh, I want to become whatever, and I want that, and I want this. And then what's puzzling to me is if you have this clear imagination of what you want, then you should know very clearly that what you need to do and what you need to, like, whatever effort that you need to pay into so that you can come to your goal like sooner. But I don't see that that's the case. So I'm very confused sometimes.
But then maybe, so you've made one very good point there. It's, we know what we want. See, sometimes I think young people don't know what they want, but let's give them the benefit of the doubt, and we'll go with what you're saying. They know what they want, and maybe really, really the issue is they don't know how to get there. And I do wonder whether it's got something to do with schools, then, that
Uh-huh.
schools I see it. I see it with. I don't know how it is in other parts of the world. I don't know how it is in Taiwan. I mean, what we have in Germany is my kids. They have a lot of problem based learning,
Yeah.
task based learning, a lot of projects that they do. They're put into groups, and if the groups have no dynamics and things don't work out, it's, to put it bluntly, it's, oh well, that's bad luck. The kids that I know from a very young age are left on their own to solve their own problems. So the social problems, the group problems, right? They have to sort out group cohesion themselves. Um, I don't know if that is intentional, but I do know that many kids in school do not have the confidence to go to their teachers or whoever the responsible adult is and to say, "Hey, miss, this isn't working." Um,
Mm-hmm.
so they're left on their own to solve whatever problem.
Right.
And maybe I'm just thinking out loud here, and maybe because of this whole experience from childhood, from early education, here's a thing, you do it, you solve it, and no, very few young people actually get a guideline or a helping hand. For example, if you want to do this, here, these are the steps to follow.
Uh-huh.
So if they've not had that training, how do I achieve my goals, or learning strategic thinking, learning time management, learning study skills, then of course that transition, and maybe that's where what my daughter said about going to university and then discovering, oh, it's all a lot more school again. Maybe that's where we've gone wrong. That that they come when they're 19, 18, 19, 20, and we think, you're adults here, you're in
Uh-huh.
this world now, this is how academics work, we assume this. So they're just thrown into that when all their lives they've not actually been prepared for this. Question mark, question
Yeah.
mark.
Right. Yeah. I do have to agree of some of the things that you mentioned, because nowadays we would assume that, oh, we give you more freedom. I mean, at least in Taiwan, it wasn't the case in the past, because in the past you were just being told you need to study this and you need to study that subject, and then it's all about academics. But now we're giving them the freedom. We're telling you, oh, you should try to explore and you should try to do this and that. But I do think that they need a bit more guidance. It's not like, oh, I'm going to set you free, and then how are you going to do things freely? Oh, it's your business. It's not our business. So they're kind of being left alone trying to figure out things. And as a professor in the university, I would what would think we would think is, oh, you kids were prepared when you come to university, but they may not be prepared, and I think
Exactly.
that's where the gap is. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I think they're just not prepared. I mean, there are many systems, oh, not many, that be lying, but there are a few systems that I know where their final high school exams are not just, teaching to the test. It's not just that whole, getting a good score, right?
Uh-huh.
You've got other more problem based, project based, show your skills, kind of portfolio based comprehensive exams. But in many places, well, in Germany at least, the last 2 years of secondary school, if you're taking those final exams to prepare you to gain your university entry, that's all just studying, studying, studying. And all you do is prepare for the exam. So you don't develop any skills. There's no, I don't know if we should have career guidance. I mean, we do have people from universities who go into schools, and we also have, my university has a program where high school students, secondary school students come to the university for a day, but they're not prepared. They only see, right, they only see a snippet of what
Mm-hmm.
university is like.
Yeah.
There's no kind of transition. There's no preparation. A colleague of mine actually said, we were talking about this actually, and she says that one thing that she's noticed in recent years is that the young people that we get, we're still doing so much hand holding, and it's still very school like.
Yes, I agree with that. And I don't know why this is happening. I mean, I don't think that we're being taught how to become an independent individual in the past. And we somehow managed. But now it's like, I don't know, maybe we're giving them too much protection or too much guidance. So they would assume that, oh, they're in good hands. So we need to take care of everything for them. I don't know what yeah.
I think you've hit the nail on the head there. I think a different colleague of mine said that there's a difference between enabling
Uh-huh.
and hand holding.
Yeah.
And sometimes, and I think because we see them maybe as weak. Weak is a bad word, but we see them as fragile and as, oh no, I don't know why we see this generation that way, though.
This show is brought to you in partnership with John Catt Educational, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Don't miss out. Level up your professional development today and visit johncattbookshop.com to explore the full range of titles. Use the code JCTTR2425 for 20% off your order. Happy reading.
Parent Kind are a national charity representing parent views and voice and championing parental participation in education and school life. By fostering strong school-parent partnerships, we can boost student attendance, improve behaviour, and enhance academic performance. When parents actively participate, students thrive. Join the movement that's reshaping education for the better. Visit parentkind.org to learn more about reaping the rewards of working in partnership with parents.
Are your teachers juggling multiple technology platforms and struggling to keep everything organised? Then Toddle might be the answer. Built by a team of ex-educators, Toddle offers an all-in-one solution for teachers that streamlines everything, from curriculum planning and assessments to communication and report cards. And the best part? Toddle comes inbuilt with an AI assistant that helps teachers save time and improve their practices. 85% of schools replaced 3 or more platforms when they brought in Toddle. Teachers using Toddle say that the platform helps them save up to 10 hours a week. That means more time for what really matters, supporting students and driving academic success. See how Toddle can support your school. Visit toddleapp.com.
Hey education changemakers, ready for something special? It's Bet Show's 40th anniversary and we're throwing a free celebration just for you. Join us at London Excel from January 22nd to 24th to connect, learn and be inspired. Picture this, 300 plus speakers who truly get it, 600 cutting-edge edtech companies and all the fresh ideas you need to make 2025 your best year yet. So why wait? Head to uk.betshow.com, grab your free ticket and come celebrate with your peers. Because this is for you. See you at Bet.
Okay, so we're talking about motivation on the Monday morning break. We've been talking about how young people seem to struggle in that transition from university, the other way around, from school to university. And we, Yang Ming Huang, my guest, and I were contemplating, even pondering whether this has something to do with how we treat our young people when they come to university, and if it has something to do with the school system. And Yang Ming, what just came to mind as I was listening to the adverts, Toddle, right? And it starts with the question, teachers, do you need help with something? And you know yourself, as teachers, we always need help, and we're happy for all the help we can get. But
Yeah.
then I'm thinking, the way we treat our young people who make the transition, could it be that our young people, I mean, you mentioned that when we made the transition ourselves from school to university, we grew up, we just, stepped into those big shoes and stepped into the role. Do you think part of the difficulty for young people today is just that there's just so much around to help them with everything, that they don't actually have to think for themselves? They don't have to, you know, do it themselves, solve the problem themselves. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I think that could possibly be the reason. Or parents or teachers nowadays, they are so afraid that the students fail. They don't want them to fail. So they try their best to prevent them from failing. But then the other way around is we're just giving them too much protection, and they don't have. Or maybe it's because the whole society, we're not expecting people should fail. We're like, oh, you need to get it right. So
Mm.
it's more about doing things right, and then rather than trying to learn how to do things right.
Yeah. And I think what you said, right, about not wanting them to fail. So looking at it the other way, wanting them to succeed. And maybe for some of us, we look back at our youth. We look back at our youth, at our younger days, and we reflect, we remember how difficult it was for us. And
Yeah.
then instead of also remembering it was difficult for us, but we made it through, and we did it, and we succeeded, and so can you. We, some of us, maybe with the flaw in our thinking, end up, you know feeling that, oh no, we struggled, and we want to save you from that struggle, like what you said, protecting.
Yeah.
Right? We
Uh-huh.
want to save you from that struggle, so we'll do it for you.
Yeah.
So then, right, our young people, it's, and I think motivation is just the tip of the iceberg. We see it as, the behavior that we see in our university classrooms, we see it as lack of motivation. Whereas I think what it is in the end is maybe they're just so lost because it hasn't got the school structure.
Hmm.
It's not studying week by week or month by month towards a particular exam or towards a particular
Yeah.
grade. It's what you were saying, it's just so much freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah. An interesting thing, my my child used to have trouble packing all the right stuff in her bag for school, right? And
Uh-huh.
I was sharing that with somebody, and I said, no, it was with the class teacher. So the class teacher complained and said, she's always forgetting this, that, and the other. And I said, and I mean, I know she does, because she comes home and she says, oh, right, so I couldn't do this because I didn't bring this. And so I said to her, well, nah, well, tough. You learn now. When clearly my child did not learn. And at some point, we had a conversation with the teacher, and the teacher said, well, one thing you can do is you could stand next to her every evening as she packs her bag. And at some point, after 2 weeks, she'll get the hang of it, and
Hmm.
you won't need to stand next to her. And then I'm thinking, well, that's not enabling,
Yeah.
is it? That's really being there, being the person there to say, here, do this, and you need this. Whereas
Mm.
my strategy was, well, if you've not brought it, then, tough, take responsibility for it.
Yeah. That's right.
Um, and I think maybe that's why a lot of our young people, perhaps nowadays, they look so demotivated, or their motivation has shifted to things that they can control for themselves. Like you mentioned,
Mm.
their purchases, their income, supporting their lifestyle,
Yeah.
things that they control, like you say, taking a class where they can see the one-to-one relation between what they're doing and their future profession.
Mm.
So my question to you now, as we come to the end of our hour. In how far do you think schools should play a part in helping our young people transition to a university style, university way of working?
I don't know. I think there's lots we can do, but I don't know if by doing that, are we helping them or are we doing them harm? Because as we're discussing, I feel like we're taking out the fun bit of all this trying and failing that they should be getting. And now they don't have that. But if you ask me, would I want my student or want my child to fail? I would say no. Then it's very tricky. Yeah, so I don't know. I don't have a good answer for this question. Yeah.
But I think I don't know you very well, but from what you've just said, right, with the question, do I want my child to fail? I know you don't, and I don't want my child to fail. I don't want anybody to fail. I don't want any of my students in my class to fail. But I
Yeah.
think with some, I do think that failing may make them stronger in the long term. I'm not saying we have to fail them intentionally, right?
Yeah.
I hear stories from some of my students who say that they've failed a class because person XYZ isn't keen on them or has something against them. So that's personal, but taking out the personal element, I think if you fail, and you have to learn how to reflect on failing. I know that there are places in the world, my daughter's school has it as well, how to deal with failure, how to deal with when you don't succeed in something. So they're learning that. I think that's where things have shifted. Things have
Mm.
shifted in the sense that our young people now seem more successful than ever at whatever they do, that failure comes very difficult to some people, or
Mm.
for some young people, expectations are very high, right? You have it, I
Right.
have it in Germany, you have it in Taiwan, that there are some families who tell their children, who expect it of their children, that their children go to university. So failure, not making it there, for them is failure. And how do you deal with that? Or they go to university and they're not motivated. So they've made it to university because their families want them to, and they're not motivated. But how can we, so they've got that extrinsic motivation, and we have to pick them up there. We have to keep up the momentum.
Yep.
So then my question then for you is, how can we then, let's looking at it the other end, how can we as educators at university be a source of positive extrinsic motivation towards our students? How can we move from just hand holding to making them
Mm.
stronger? Any
Yep.
thoughts?
I think we can help them to set like a bit like some challenging goals that we're willing to accompany you along the way on your pursuing of these goals. But yeah, I think that's something I would do because I know some students they feel like they don't get well academically, so they're a bit down, but they do
Mm-hmm.
have some talents. So now what I would do is I may tailor made some goals. I think that's something you can accomplish, and then I would I would suggest do you want to try this, and then they get a bit motivated, and then I go along the way and tell them that also, see, you can still do things, and maybe you should bring this motivation to some other stuff that you
Mm.
thought you were not able to do, but you are actually able to do it. You just need to believe yourself. You just need to believe what you're capable of, I think.
Yeah. So really that identification, isn't it? That identifying what they can do, or identify that helping
Yeah.
them identify their abilities, perhaps their strengths, and helping them see that this is higher education is really, it's a journey of discovery, right? A discovery of what you're able to do, a discovery
Yeah.
of what you like, and also we have to admit that also discovering what you don't like can
Yeah,
be
that's also really important.
exactly, can be a force in motivation. Brings us back, right, to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where you identify for yourself, you want to become a better version of ourselves, you want to express your full potential, which means, coming back to university, as we pick them up from school, as they transition from school, we kind of help them identify, what's the potential that they want to achieve, because it's not like they have no motivation whatsoever.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that was really, really interesting. Thank you very much, Yang Ming. That's all we've actually got time for today. Yang Ming, thank you for your valuable insights. It's been really interesting talking to you, for being so gracious with your time. I think it is 8 p.m. in Taipei now.
Yep.
Yep, it is indeed. Just a little after 1 p.m. here in Germany. Before we go, we're not quite on our Christmas break yet. Do tune in to our other live shows this week. And do remember, as always, to like and subscribe to receive notifications of upcoming shows. And of course, to support Teachers Talk Radio. Round of applause for Yang Ming. And have a good week, everybody.
Thank you. Nice to be on the show.
Nice talking to you.
You've been listening to Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live and listen back at ttradio.org. We look forward to hearing from you next time on Teachers Talk Radio.